Welcome to the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the psychology of darker desires. I'm Em, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm a psychosexuality nerd with a background in psychology, sociology, medical science, and Tantra. I'm also in a 24/7 collared relationship, and I'm passionate about humanizing kinksters. Join me here for in-depth one-on-one conversations as we explore the fascinating world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. If you love what we're doing here in the erotic realm, I'd like to ask you a quick favor. Can you follow and rate the show on Spotify? It helps the show reach more people like you. And if you haven't yet, I'd love if you could subscribe to my Substack, Psychology of Desire. This is where I go even deeper into the science of symbolism, of desire, archetypes, and erotic evolution. You'll get access to articles, unique surveys and research, and behind-the-scenes access to everything we're building. Visit psychologyofdesire.substack.com. I'll see you there. And now for today's episode. The following conversation is part 2 of our 3-part relationship series exploring a remarkable 40-plus year BDSM dynamic. Last week, we met Master MissMarie, the dominant and life partner of today's guest, and next week we'll hear from the third partner in their triad. Today, you'll meet MelissaBound, a bisexual, transgender Cuckquean, rope bunny, and collared submissive who has devoted over 4 decades to erotic service, surrender, and personal transformation. In this candid conversation, Melissa opens up about the art of long-term submission, the psychology of chastity, and the lessons she's learned from loving and being owned by MissMarie for most of her adult life. We explore what it means to be a trans Cuckquean, the secret to happiness in long-term DS relationships, and why chastity can be as much a mental game as a physical one. Along the way, we dive into fresh research on sexual satisfaction for transgender individuals, and Melissa shares her own erotic writings that reveal the inner world of a submissive mind. Whether you're curious about cuckqueaning, inspired by stories of lifelong devotion, or interested in the intersections of gender, power, and pleasure, this episode offers rare insight from someone who has truly lived the depth of her kink. Enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm podcast. Today I'm very pleased to have with me Melissa. Welcome, Melissa.
Well, thanks for having me on your show.
You're welcome. So I'd like to begin the podcast by exploring a bit about who you are. Can you share with our listeners about who you are and what you get up to when you're not exploring your sexuality?
Sure. So I'm a 62-year-old transgender woman. I've been transitioned fully for the last 15 years at least. Like a lot of trans people, everybody's journey is different, and mine revolved around basically 37 years of living someone else's life to make sure that the rest of my loved ones were cared for and had the life they needed to have. So I enjoy a lot of technical things. I was in IT for 31 years. I've had a wide variety of skills and nerdy things that I like. And with my mistress by my side always, we, enjoy boating and camping and doing things together. And our community in kink is a big part of our life, and we go to a lot of events and munches and parties. And but I know you said things outside of that, but what is outside of kink? There's nothing. Why go there?
I feel you. So let's dive a bit more into your sexuality. How would you describe your sexuality and what kink roles do you inhabit?
I'm bi. I do people. This is kind of I've often described, at least as far as I'm concerned, trans women being the Swiss Army knife of sex. because there's pretty much nothing we don't think we can do. And, we can try to please everybody. Um, and I think that for me, sexuality in and out of BDSM is, well, you know, vanilla sex is so boring, so it's not much point talking about sensuality outside of BDSM because we are lifestyle people, and I am always a collared submissive. I'm always my mistress's slave. I don't make any decisions about my personal affairs. I don't schedule my time. I don't do any of the traditional things that an independent individual might make. Um, I have responsibilities to her that are well understood within the confines of our relationship and out of it for a lot of people that know us. Um, I think that sexuality for me is inherently tied to kink, but not necessarily dependent upon it.
Hmm. Can you share a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Well, I think that when I think about uh, loving my mistress, um, it's about the intimate connection that we have mentally,
Mm.
as well as whatever physical things that we want to do. A lot of times, when we want to have some kind of sexual relations, it always starts out as a grandiose plan to have some kind of an elaborate scene, but sometimes the demands of vanilla life crimp your style, and you're forced to just, you got 5 minutes left. You're almost out of spoons. Do you want an orgasm? Yeah, let's have an orgasm, and then it's basically, oral sex and a hand job. So that's sometimes that just has to be good enough.
Right. Now, I was looking at your FetLife profile and I saw the kink roles that you have on there. And you identify as a submissive, Cuckquean, bondage slut, and slave bunny. I was really curious to hear more about the Cuckquean label. So I haven't chatted to a Cuckquean on the podcast at all yet. So for those who
No,
may for those who may not be aware, can you share with us what a Cuckquean is and what that means for you in your relationship?
yeah, this is actually a great topic because we actually teach a class on this topic.
Cool.
We actually presented it last December at Naughty Noel up in Gettysburg. And so basically, um, cucking, as it could be generically called. So, like the various terms in that realm, you have the dominant person, which is either just a master, mistress. Sometimes a hot wife is a term that's applied, which
Mm.
personally I feel like that's more like a swinger term because some of this does spill into the swinger community. But basically, then your submissive person is the if it's a man, it's a cuckold. If it's a woman, it's a cuckian, um, or we'll just call them the cuck in a generic way. And then you have your third person, which is generally your cupcake or your bull. Um, a lot of people don't like the term bull. I'm not a fan of it, but for lack of a better word, that's the one that we apply right now. Um, and the roles of these people are basically fairly straightforward, although, as we learn doing research for the class, um, it gets a little complicated. So, for the cuckold, for the man who is the submissive to a dominant wife, it tends to be more of a fairly standard formula. Um, the man will be kept in the submissive man will be kept in chastity, and a bull will come over and he'll either be forced to service the bull as a fluffer to get it ready for his wife, or he'll just have to watch, or any number of things. And the idea is that the submissive gets off on the humiliation aspect of it, and the dominant woman can humiliate them by basically doing like small penis humiliation or something like that. But it's a very standard formula. Anytime you talk to a couple that's into cucking, it's always kind of the man always seems to want the same things, and the woman always seems to enjoy the same things. And the third person who's involved is kind of an object. There's generally not really any actual relationship. Sometimes it's even just like a hookup. How these people get into vetting people to have unprotected sex, that's a whole nother podcast. I don't even want to get into that, but
Yep.
because I don't understand it myself. But when you look at the Cuckquean side, the female side, it gets a lot more convoluted because women experience things differently than men do. They're more in tune with the emotional aspect of it. It's not so much always about the visual aspect of it. I've talked with other women who, our version of like my being a cuck or a Cuckquean has very specific desires because we are such a solid relationship, and we're kind of mostly, I guess you could say, monogamous with our third, who is our cupcake.
Polymonogamous.
Yes, it's polymonogamous. It's kind of one of the terms we've been throwing around.
Did you say cupcake?
She would be the cupcake, yes.
I haven't heard that term before. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just so
No,
curious.
that's okay.
What do you mean by cupcake?
So the cupcake is a female version of a bull, and it can be in either a in a traditional, or what I'll call probably the consumer version of what the Cuckquean is doing, and what the dominant partner to that person is doing.
Right.
The female is the submissive female is generally denied the opportunity to have sex with her dominant partner.
Mm-hmm.
One of the areas of debate that we went through quite a bit when preparing for this class is a big component that we personally feel is necessary for a cuck to actually be cucked, because you get into this gray area, whereas you say to yourself, well, this is just swinging, or you say to yourself, this is just a guy looking for like multiple women that he can fuck under the guise of this kink. But it's very hard to say where that line is, because there's women that kind of enable or manifest this behavior very easily. So you have women that will be content to say to their husband, yes, you can go to a hotel and fuck another girl, just please, tell me about it when you come back. But then I've had conversations with other women that are like, yeah, I don't care if he tells me anything about it. I just like knowing that he's out there fucking somebody else. Or there's women like me who are like, I want to be tied up in the same room, forced to watch, and denied any sexual activity myself. So there's a lot of eroticism in playing with jealousy, because that's kind of one of the ingredients to successful humiliation. Is there should be a little element of jealousy, but it's kind of a form of edge play, because if it goes wrong or you take it too far, it can get very ugly. So it's a complicated topic, probably one that's a little more, it could be dug into in more depth than what we probably really want to spend time on today. But suffice it to say, the reason that the Cuckquean role is in my profile is because when we're engaging with our third, she's dominant to me and submissive to my mistress, and she will generally be the one that's allowed to have sex with her while I'm tied up and denied, because that is a source of pleasure for my mistress. And since I'm a real bondage slut, I love being tied up, and there's some benefits for all of us, because if I'm just a bound object, I'm kind of bondage porn for both of them. I don't really have a lot of responsibility. All I have to do is just, stay in whatever position they've put me in
Which you
and
rarely do.
drool or moan or whatever, and and that turns them on, and so they have great sex, and I get to watch it happen. Or in the case of like, if you're the cupcake, then obviously you get to come and have sex, uh, guaranteed, to enjoy an orgasm or whatever, and you kind of, might get off on humiliating the Cuckquean and be like, my pussy's tighter than yours, he likes my body better, my tits are bigger, they're fuller, like, you wish you had a body like mine, you can say those kinds of teasing things, and that plays into some humiliation and some jealousy. So um, that's what that role's about. It's not to say like, I'm always the primary in the relationship, right? And this is something that we feel people should not dabble with unless they are very, very solid in their own relationship. We didn't get into that till we'd been together for 30 years. So, and what it really comes down to is we're just so comfortable with each other, and we have so much trust in each other and so much love for each other that there's plenty left over to share with other people. And this is the way that we choose to share it. So that's what that's about.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. And it sounds like you three have a lot of fun together. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to go back to the beginning of your erotic journey now. How would you describe the earliest moment you felt your erotic self awakening? Do you remember it?
Well, that is an intriguing question, and it is tied both to my erotic journey as well as my gender journey. Um, I guess I'll try to make this as short as possible, although it's going to be long simply because I'm so old. But
go for it.
When I was a child in single digits, I think I could remember being like, let's say, 6 years old. There was just something in me that was submissive and desired, kind of like, actually, my first foray into kink was puppy play. You got a new dishwasher or a refrigerator or something that came in a big cardboard box, and it was laying in the living room, and I asked my mom to cut a hole in it, and I could go in and out of it like a puppy dog did, because we had a dog and we had a dog house. And I would take crayons and I would decorate the outside of the thing to look like a dog house. And then I asked her to put a bowl on the floor with some water in it so I could drink like a dog. And then I asked her to put a rope around my neck and, like tape it to the box so I could feel like the dog does when it's outside. As I got older, playing with my friends, if there was sometimes, cowboys and Indians would come up, and I notice today is not very politically correct, and I apologize for that. But back in the day, the Indian was always the bad person, and so I always wanted to play the Indian so that I would be captured and tied up, which some of my friends were willing to do. So that was very early, and then of course. Ran into some trouble because my dad passed away when I just turned 12. And at the time, I was living in a house with, there was a shared apartment complex, and my cousins lived downstairs. My aunt and uncle and their 4 daughters lived downstairs. And I had access to the laundry room that we shared, and I would find their clothes, and I would often put them on. And, I inherently knew that in 1960, whatever that was something you wanted to get caught doing. But I eventually did get caught, and it was made very clear to me that as the only person in the family capable of carrying the family name, there was a lot of responsibility put on my shoulders to make sure that I would grow up as a man, procreate, have children, procreate, the name, And so since my dad had passed away and I was told that I had this responsibility, I spent 37 years of my life trying to live up to expectations that were never told to me, but which I imagined.
Mm.
And so I had a very suppressed sexuality and a very uh, uh, dedicated to the task mentality of grow up, get married, grow up, build a career, get a job, build a career, get married, have kids, uh, and that's what I did. And I think Mistress would say I was very successful at it. I mean, we had a very good relationship. We enjoyed everything we did together, but I was always living my life for everyone else. I never really took any time to think about my own personal desires.
Mm.
And it was in the early '80s that the Centurion's Publishing Company stuff started to appear in Playboy magazines and OUI magazines. There were ads for these bondage catalogs, and so I sent off for one. And when I got that thing, oh my God, like it all started to make sense to me. It was like the gates of my sexuality had opened.
Mm. Mm. What a story. Thank you for sharing. So, based on what you've just shared there, would you say that kink is innate, that we are born kinky?
I would definitely say that, in the community that we enjoy here in South Carolina and also in Pennsylvania, and having met other people around the country, it seems that you run into two kinds of people. There's people that have always been kinky, who for them, kink is a lifestyle and more of a necessity and less of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see a lot of other people that are curious, exploring, don't really know what it's about. I feel like a lot of those people are transitory. There's 12 million profiles on FetLife. Uh, my profile is the 37,000th profile on FetLife. There's a few odd numbers after that, but a very early adopter. And I have, because we run a munch and have run play parties, I only friend people I've met. I have, I don't know, like 1,000, 1,500 friends, and there's, I don't know, probably about 8,000 people that follow me. But out of that 1,500, let's say, I would say fewer than 3% are still active that I actually see.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at that big number of 12 million, the actual number of kinky people on that website is literally in, say, 100,000 to 300,000 would be my guess. So the number of people who are truly kinky is a huge minority compared to the number of people who think they might be kinky but don't know. And to those people, I'm going to assume that their requirement to stay in kink is not great. They can come and go as they please. And while there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, like, to your question, there are kinky people. There are people who pretend to be kinky who may not actually be.
Yeah, there's some people that need it and some people that explore it or desire it sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. So you've been in the same relationship for about 40 years. We chatted to Master MissMarie last week. Firstly, congratulations on such a long relationship.
Oh, thank you.
Can you share with us a bit about the journey you've had together over those 40 years? Specifically, I'm so curious to hear how you met. And can you also share some of the biggest learnings that you've had during that time?
Sure. Yep. That's actually a fun story because one of the things that I get a lot of on FET is people saying, I want your relationship. They look at what we have and they say, that's the model right there. That's the one. How do we get to that? And I get a lot of messages from people like, I need a dom like yours. I want to find somebody like yours. I want this situation that you have. And I'll talk to them, but I never have very good news for them, because the reality is you don't go out and find a dom. You have to make one. And I think that's really the tale of our relationship, is that we are who we are because we made each other that. We were friends before we were ever anything. Our families were friends. I've known my mistress since she was 6 years old.
Wow.
And she met my father once before he passed away. So I've at least been consoled with the knowledge that he met his future daughter-in-law, even though he would have never known it. But the journey that we've had has been an interesting one, because I was fresh out of a relationship that had lasted for 3 or 4 years. And I had fallen in love with that girl, and when she dumped me, she broke my heart, and she dumped me because I didn't have any money.
Oh.
And, her idea of money was something more than a minimum wage job, I guess. I always was employable, and I always had a job, but I just, she had higher expectations for her life than I guess what she thought I could fulfill. And we started going out as friends just to fill the time. I didn't have this girlfriend to take out on the weekends anymore, so I knew Marie, and I would say, hey, do you want to go to the movies, or something this weekend? And so we would go out, and we kind of became a regular thing. And for a while, it was more like well, at the time, I'll say a brother and sister relationship. And that went on for some number of years. And, we were never consciously seeking anything more than that. But as our friendship grew, our closeness grew. And then one day we were just listening to some music, and we kissed each other. And then we were like, uh-oh, what now? And it wasn't too long after that my interest in bondage had peaked from the Centurion's publications, and we started looking at those together. And I was like, you think you would like to tie me up? And she would like, yeah. And so that started happening, and that went on for a long time. And we were both only children, and had a lot of freedom, I guess, to pursue who we were, because back in that day, parents did not keep an eye on their kids as tightly as people today feel they have to. And so we spent a lot of time parking, making out in cars and pickup trucks and things like that. And, her domination was natural to her. And I remember one time, she was wearing a pair of high heels, and I put her feet on my chest in the back seat of the car, and I was like, I like that. She did too. So it just got kinkier as time went on. When we started to get serious about our relationship, and we wanted to get married, we did that, and we were engaged for probably, I think, 3 years before we had children. And the whole time that we were, engaged and building careers and raising kids and everything, we were always kinky together. But again, my sexuality always leaned to the feminine side. I loved being submissive to her. I used to look at the pictures of submissive women and wish that was me. And like I said, my dad died when I was 12. He was 50 years old, and I lived my entire life with the assumption that was all the longer I was going to last, because I had no idea had no idea how old I might be, but I expected that I, like my father, might die when I was 50. So I tried to live my entire life as if that was going to be my reality. And, as the kids started to go off to college, and I found myself at, 46, 47 years of age, I started to really start to think about the emptiness in the house. I had a job that had an hour and a half commute each way, so I spent a lot of time alone behind the wheel thinking about my life. And I had gotten to the point where I was like, I really have to know what I would have had.
Mm.
And I was ready to throw everything away. And this is the hardest thing about being transgender is it's not like you're going away from something to something else. It's you're trying to get home. You're trying
Mm.
to get where you were always supposed to be. And because society is so cruel and it doesn't let people do that, I mean, we can see it even in the government today. People are still trying to tell people this is what you're allowed to be. And that's not nature's way. That's not what was intended. And so the real message that I try to convey to people about, when they think about trans people is uh, we've always been what we are. It's just that we were never allowed to express it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people think that we still shouldn't be allowed to express it, but I'm sorry, you can't change who you are, and you're never going to be truly healthy unless you can be what you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came out to her, it was a huge roll of the dice. We had amassed quite a life together, and I was, willing to throw it all away. But I had tremendous faith in her also, and I was banking on the fact that we would successfully navigate that. And to our credit, we did, I guess. Sadly, for a lot of trans people, they don't survive that phase,
Mm.
and the costs are very high.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what she gained was a wife that was far kinkier than her husband ever was,
Mm-hmm.
far willing to do more things than her husband ever was. And I think it's just really been a fantastic thing to have happen to us, and we don't have any regrets about it. Um, the journey's been amazing, and in the 15 years that I've been out and that we've been in the community, I feel that I have done and that we have done more for humanity than I ever could have achieved as an individual, especially as a man, because I am so not the person I once was. Uh, it could be said that I'm a 180-degree opposite of what I used to be. And this is one of the unique perspectives that I have because the very people who hate trans people and seek to destroy them, I used to be one. So I know exactly how they think.
Ah.
I know exactly what's wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I turn on the news or whatever and I hear their lame excuses and the shit that they think is why we're a problem, they'll never speak the truth. They'll never tell you that the real reason they want to destroy us is because they jerk off to us, and
Mm.
that we're the forbidden fruit that they can't have
Mm.
because their own sexuality is so repressed and so sadly confined that this is really the problem with the world today is that murders and broken relationships and all these things happen because people are ashamed. They're sexually repressed and they're
Mm-hmm.
ashamed of who or what they are, and it causes so many problems.
Yep.
But once you can be free and be yourself and be who you're meant to be, it fixes everything.
Mm. Yeah, I truly believe the world would be a different place if everyone was living from their true sexuality and able to express it freely. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to explore more about what it means to be a trans woman with you. There's a 2020 article that I came across. It's called Sexual Pleasure in Transgender and Gender Diverse Individuals, an update on recent advances in the field. And it's by Bradford and Spencer. And what stood out to me was they were speaking about how much of the research still centers surgeries, hormones, and mental health risk, but not pleasure or desire, not the deeply lived, embodied, erotic experiences that people like you, Melissa, so generously explore and teach about. So, the authors critique how rarely trans pleasure is centered in research. I'd love to center it right now with you. What does it mean to you personally or politically to center pleasure in your life and in your submission?
All right, well, that's a good question. So let me first comment. I'm thankful to say that I have known and do know many other trans women that I've had the opportunity to be with in person. Um, and I think for a lot of us, you know, the mental health is a impediment to a good relationship.
Mm.
A lot of trans women spend, well, let's just talk about women in general, because if you're looking on the internet and you're paying attention uh, to social media, at least as far as FetLife's concerned. I can't comment on anything else because I don't do anything else. But my general perception is that women are very, very frustrated with getting good dates. It's very hard to find reliable male partners. Um, I think that part of that may have to do with consumerism for that men seem to see women as being a product that they can consume. Um, and it seems like a lot of the uh, the traditional things that men used to do fell by the wayside after the internet became something to them. Um, and I think that when you look at regular cis females, let's go with cis het females, uh, probably 5 to 10% of them seem to be in a happy relationship. And I'm not going to attempt to categorize how long they last because I really don't know. But speaking about our own marriage and the number of weddings that we've been to in our lives, we're the only ones still standing. All the other people that got married under our watch didn't make it.
Mm.
And so I think that there is just a very, very high percentage of people out there that are looking for someone. And that's true on the men's side as well as the women's side. A lot of women are struggling to find, we'll call them adult men or men that are mature or mature acting. In fact, there is a trend right now, I do believe, that a lot of women are looking to older men, men who knew how to live without the internet, who have a lot of the tried and true values and traditions that work in a relationship. They seem to be gravitating toward them. I see a lot of frustration from young men who are looking for something more solid than a quick fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you put trans women in the context of the overall spectrum of women and the struggles that women have, um, it only gets worse from there because the biggest problem with being a trans woman who is heterosexual is that you want a relationship with a man who sees you as a woman and who wants to have the same kind of relationship with you that they will have with a cis female.
Mm-hmm.
And what often happens is men will disguise themselves as seeming to be that guy, but they've never been with a trans woman. And so, from their viewpoint, it's more like an experiment.
Mm.
And no trans woman wants to be an experiment.
No.
A lot of trans women, because of the dysphoria that we suffer, and the fact that a lot of girls, they don't like their cock, they hate their body, they don't like how it's put together. They're at odds with their own physical being. And so if you get someone who comes along and they like some aspect of your body and it happens to be a part you don't like, that's an immediate turnoff, which makes it very hard for men who, I think it's fair to say, and this is without prejudice, that all men fetishize some aspect of a woman. I think that's normal and expected. Some men are ass men, some men are breast men, some men, like a girl's the way she smiles or hair color, whatever aspect of her that they like. It's one of the selling points that makes them want to buy it. And I mean that, euphemistically. But, if you're a trans woman dater and you happen to, maybe you want to suck cock. You don't want to suck a guy's cock, but you'll suck a girl's cock. And so you want a relationship where you can do that. You're going to have a hard time finding trans women that are into that. Mm-hmm. It's not to say they're not out there, but by and large, the vocal people who are the ones that I see a lot of negativity from, who are like, I got another chaser on my hands. They'll call them chasers, but I think that sometimes trans women can be their own worst enemy when it comes to dating, because if a guy is interested in them, that it's not okay if it's not for a reason that they like. But that's not to say that they're not a great guy. Like, you won't know. It's the same as being any other woman. Like, you're not going to know until you actually meet the guy for coffee and start talking to him. Like, if you're going to, if you're going to get along, if you're going to jive. Like, I've been very fortunate. I have a boyfriend. I've had boyfriends. Mistress has allowed me to have some guys in my life. And one of them, I still consider him a boyfriend, although we don't live anywhere near each other anymore. But, he actually knew me pre-transition, and he was my best friend then. And after I transitioned, he was, kind of still one of my best friends. And, I asked him about it one time, and he said, I always saw you as two distinctly separate people. And I also always knew that you were really a woman. And so he was never uncomfortable treating me like a woman. And that's what every trans woman wants. It's somebody that will treat them like a real woman. But it's so hard to find, especially in the context of the comfort of someone whose dysphoria is not focused on their genitalia.
Yeah, so the article also calls for a more expansive definition of sexual well-being for trans and gender diverse people. What does erotic well-being look like for you now?
I mean, for me, especially since I've always been about BDSM, and I'm a huge bondage slut. I mean, that's always been my happy place, is to be tied up. That has always been a thing. I've been told, or I used to tell people, I'm not a masochist, but I play one in the dungeon. And I would laugh when I said it, because I never considered myself a masochist at all. But another master told me in no uncertain terms that I am a masochist. I'm just not the kind of masochist people think of when they think of masochism. I know a lot of pain sluts. I know a lot of people that can take way more than me when it comes to being whipped. I know people that like to be cut, that like to bleed, that like to experience severe pain. I'm not any of those things. Those things are something that I don't actually enjoy that much. In fact, Mistress will be the first one to tell you that I'm not in love with being whipped, but I'm in love with the idea of being whipped. And I have to be tied to the cross. I get endlessly bored with people walking up to crosses and watching their tops beat on them while they just stand there and hold on to the thing without being tied to it in any way. I'm like thinking to myself, what's the eroticism in that? It's like, you have a choice. You could walk away. You could turn around. You could raise your foot. Like, none of this stuff is consensual non-consent, to the extent that I feel like, bondage has a certain level of uncertainty because it's more exciting. There's more things that you can't control. So,
Mm.
The eroticism of my sexuality or of transgender sexuality is not much different than anyone else's. It's just a matter of, you know, um, I think if we look at sexuality in general, there's a lot of female-bodied, or let's call them vaginally equipped people who they have trouble orgasming. They might have trouble orgasming in public. They might have trouble orgasming digitally. There's like only certain ways they can come. And I think a lot of trans women are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us, probably especially perhaps more so those who struggle with their bodies. They don't like what they see in the mirror or whatever. It can be hard to get turned on when you're not happy about how you are.
Mm.
I think that was one of the things that was really important for me early in my transition, was to realize that I am stuck with what I have. Not gonna not gonna ever be shorter than I am. My shoulders are never going to be narrower than they are. Yes, there's a lot of surgeries people can pursue, and I know a lot of trans women that have done a lot of different kinds of surgeries. And I think that for those that want those specific surgeries and that they, can have them done and that it makes them happy with their body, that's great. They should definitely do that. I hope that their sex life is better because they have overcome the emotional drudgery of, working with less than the ideal thing to use.
Mm-hmm.
So I think across the spectrum, studying transsexual, I'm sorry, that's not the way I wanted that to come out, transgender sexuality is going to be complicated because just like regular cis female women, there's no standard. There's no like, it has to be this one true way.
Yep.
I think opportunity and happiness levels are probably the two metrics that you could probably study the most, and therefore be able to imply the sexual fulfillment of a person based on those two things.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Thank you for sharing. So, being born male and now being a transgender woman, you mentioned in the podcast form that you feel like you understand a broader aspect of sexuality than many people as a result of this journey. Can you share with us more about what you feel you understand about sexuality due to these varied experiences?
Sure. Well, I think the key thing to remember is that, and this is for better or for worse for trans people, but you don't forget anything. You don't forget your previous life experiences, and even though for many of us we kind of die a certain death when we never look back on our old selves, I think that you can take away a lot of things, kind of like what I said earlier when it came to the politics of this. I know how men think, and I'll be honest and tell you that I've had a lot of girlfriends say things to me like, "Melissa, you really got to take me shopping, girl. How do you end up looking so damn hot all the time?" And it's because I know what men want. So there is that unfair advantage, and I'm happy to be able to share what I know with other women because of that unique perspective. I think that the eroticism of being a woman and knowing how someone might likely dominate you can be beneficial. When it comes to the male body, most penis-toting people are only going to really have one good orgasm. I know there are some that are blessed enough to be able to do better, but I was never not. So I look at it from that lens, and when you're with a guy or you're you're playing with a penis. I mean, how you take care of it, what you do with it, and what the clock says you have time to do, gives you a unique perspective on um, not ending things too quickly or not taking things in a bad direction.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay, I'd like to know a little bit more about your triad that you live in. What's one thing you'd like to share about living in this triad that you don't often see portrayed about such a dynamic?
So I think one of the important things to realize from our particular experience is that, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about women who are struggling to find a fulfilling relationship. Um, when the two girls that we have been involved with, when they looked at us, what they saw primarily was stability and happiness.
Mm,
And they generally lived in a world that did not have either of those.
mm,
And so when you bring a partner in who is of that particular situation, what they see is far more than sex, and it's far more than a relationship. It is an entirely new way to live,
mm,
and and it is such a better vision than anything they could have hoped to achieve on their own. And so a lot of people that are in a poly relationship, they obviously make a lot of huge sacrifices for themselves to gain things that they could not otherwise achieve on their own. So, um, and why I don't want to sound too, it's not a finality there. I mean, that's just a in the moment kind of thing. I mean,
mm-hmm,
I think the real secret to lifelong happiness, and I've said this many times, particularly anytime we've ever gone to a wedding or a collaring. It's basically this: the key to happiness is wanting what you have and not having what you want, and always putting the needs of the other person ahead of your own.
mm,
And if you can do those two things, you can love anybody, and you can live with them for as long as you want. Uh, and in theory, you'll get so good at it that you'll never want that to end.
mm-hmm,
And so that's been true for us. I know, like when our current third came into the picture, as before, we were not actually looking for anyone. Kink is a lot like that. As a sidebar, it's kind of one of those things. The more you want something, the less likely you are to get it. It's just been my observation. Um, the more you want to be collared, or the more you want to be covered, or the more you want to, do this thing or find this scenario or whatever, it's always going to be more likely that that kind of thing is going to show up when you least expect it than when it
mm,
is when you're going out and looking for it. So, these thirds have come into our lives and just kind of endeared themselves to us. And a lot of times it just comes in as a conversation. It's like, and then you hear their story and they talk about their struggle, and in Master Marie's case and I, we look at each other and we know we've got extra love to spare. So it's kind of initially becomes like a charity.
mm-hmm,
Like, let's see if we can help this person, or
mm,
let's see if we can make them feel a little better about their selves. And then as things progress, the next thing you know, you kind of really love them, and you don't want to give them up. And so that's how the natural relationship develops for us.
mm,
And we each one has been different and unique in its own way.
mm-hmm,
And um, there's always things that you might want to improve on, but you also know that time is a big factor. Time is a great healer. Time is a great mover of mountains. Um,
mm,
if you have to be patient. This is something that a lot of people today, I don't think they understand. It's a consumer click buy it now kind of lifestyle that everybody has, and they want immediate change, and they want immediate results, and they want this or that to happen for them right now. And that's just not the way life works. You have to wait. You have to you have to be patient. And our generation was really good at that because we used to have to write letters to talk to people, and you would think very well about what you wanted to say. You would write it, you'd put it in the mail, and then 15, 16, 20 days later, you might get an answer. So you become very patient and you learn how to wait for things. And we continue to do that with a lot of the things that, if a relationship seems to need a little work, or it seems to need a better situation, like, both of our partners have been in job situations or financial situations or vehicle situations or any number of things that were an impediment to us getting together more, or being able to do more things together. Those kinds of things. We just wait. We just patiently wait, and they can enjoy knowing that we'll wait for them. We'll wait for them to get to where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. That's all such great advice, and yeah, I really appreciate you sharing all of that, especially the secret to happiness and a long relationship. I'm sure a lot of people will be taking notes. Now, as part of our conversation today, I asked you to bring along something to share, such as a quote, book, or a movie that's influenced your eroticism. Can you share with us what you've brought along today and how it's shaped your erotic realm, Melissa?
This will be a little ironic, but one of my favorite quotes comes from a pastor that ministered at a church that we used to go to, and I think it was basically the same words that Jesus would have used. And while I don't identify as a Christian anymore, since my religion has been weaponized and turned against me, I do still have faith and follow some of the teachings. And the quote is this: "I'm here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable." Which means that if you need help and you need guidance and you need love and you need these things, we're all about trying to make sure that you get them. But if you're pompous, if you're arrogant, if you think you know everything, if you think there's only one true way, we're going to set you straight on that.
I love that, and I can hear the fierceness as well coming through.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so curious to hear, what's the most surprising or healing lesson that you've learned in your 40 years of submission?
So I think obviously a large part of it is going to tie back to my transition, just because Mistress had a chance to dump me. She could have discarded me. She could have thrown me away. But the fact that she loves me to the extent that she does, I always loved her with all my heart. I still do. I always revered her and her abilities to tolerate my quirkiness or my being a pain in the butt or whatever. And that only became even stronger after I transitioned, because now I really did feel like in so many classic movies, you see scenes like this all the time where someone saves someone's life and then they're kind of like, well, I own you now, or I owe you a debt of gratitude that I can never repay, that kind of thing. That's what I feel like our relationship is. And so, she does own me, heart and soul, like even without the collar, which I would never take off. She has owned my soul and my spirit, and more so in the last 20 years than ever before. Having been parents together, having built a house together, having done all these things together, having seen every challenge together, we are soulmates. And the most transformative thing that we could ever uh, probably ever hope to experience
Mm-hmm.
would just be being able to live the rest of our lives and die together.
Mm. Oh, that's so
Because
lovely.
I don't think either one of us would ever want to live without the other.
I can sense that just from chatting to you both for this brief time. Mm-hmm. Really powerful. So we have another tradition on the podcast where I ask the guest a question sourced by the listeners. And today, one of the listeners wants to know, what is the best advice you have received throughout your journey?
It's kind of weird because our journey started in such an unconventional way and at a time so different than now that we never had anybody to give us advice.
Mm,
We spent more time giving out advice than getting advice.
mm,
That said, of course, we're always open to ideas and advice, and we haven't really gotten any of lately that I can think of. But I think one of the things that one of the lessons I think that we both learned on our journey that was somewhat transformative was uh, the inspiration that we got from some of the club owners that we met over the years. When we had popular play spaces, I don't know if this is um, something that's ever been noticed by most people, but you know, the founder of the Crucible in Washington D.C. was a FedLife user named Uncle Frazier. Uncle Frazier was the person who made BDSM legal in Washington D.C.
mm,
He was the only owner of a fully legal BDSM club. It is the only place I've ever been where cops come in and watch, and they're welcomed there, and they're not there to see people if they're doing dirty, sick shit to each other. They're there to make sure no one's drinking and no one's doing illegal drugs
mm-hmm,
because it's a BDSM club and those things don't belong there. Um, but you know, he put through a lot of effort to make that possible. His club had to move twice in the years that we knew him before he passed away, and we were intimate with him to the degree that we spent many hours alone with him at his house and at his club. And that out of all the people that came through his club and all the choices that he had, uh, my master was his dom. And if you look at his profile today, hers is the only name that's on it
mm-hmm,
as a relationship. And you know, for all of his, I'm going to put this in quotes, wealth and power, which of course is a euphemism and not an actuality, in the kink community, he still had not achieved true happiness, and we were trying to help him. And I think it's when you get opportunities like that, where you're so important to someone that it usurps everything else that they're doing. It makes you realize that just being yourself and letting other people absorb your happiness and your stability and your tranquility, that's very meaningful. I've had some very transformative experiences as a trans woman. I've met people uh, randomly. I had a person tell me one time that they were a stewardess and they've had lots of trans people on their flight, but because we were talking at a swingers club, she was able to ask me questions to things that she'd always wanted to know.
mm,
And, you know, by the time I was done talking to her, you know, she was virtually in tears and telling me how much I had changed her life and how it was going
wow.
to be so much easier to talk to these passengers now and like so many things. And there's been dozens of things throughout our lives where we look at each other and we're like, hell, all we got to do is walk out the front door and we change somebody's life just by
Mm,
waving at them.
mm-hmm,
It's silly, and it I don't like how it. I'm not trying to sound boastful or nothing. It's just like you're asking me, what are these
Yeah.
moments?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the kind of moments like we don't talk about them, but they do happen.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when they do, you don't understand them. You just
Mm.
look at each other like, what the hell was that?
Mm.
We were down in Florida one time at a very, very, very scary neighborhood. Scary if you're a lesbian, scary if you're a trans woman, surrounded by, let's just say, flags that aren't your own, um, in a crocodile infested swamp at a restaurant,
Mm.
bar restaurant. And, we walk in there and, you know, Mistress goes into protector mode whenever I'm in danger, whenever she senses that I'm in danger.
Mm.
And we were with a couple other friends who are kind of more or less oblivious to any of this. Like they just think it's another bar. It's no big deal to them because they're not trans and they're not lesbians. So,
Mm-hmm.
we go in there and she's basically got a mental image of like Laura Croft Tomb Raider in her mind. She's about to go into kick-ass mode if somebody so much as makes a move or whatever. And
Yeah.
and this woman taps her on the shoulder after I've walked past, and she's like, who is that? Do you know that woman? Like, and she tells her, yeah, she's my wife. And this woman is like, oh, gaga. And she's like, oh, can I meet her? Can I meet her? And I'm already sitting at the table with our friends, and she brings a stranger over to me, and she's like, Melissa, I want you to meet this person, and I'm like, hello, what was her name?
Libby.
Libby, yeah, Libby was her name. And she says, my name's Libby. You're so beautiful. Like I just really had to meet you, and like and the bar had a tradition whereby you could sign a dollar bill and staple it to some part of the building. There was dollar bills everywhere. And she says, would you sign my dollar bill? And I'm like, sure, I'll sign your dollar bill. And I've got a kind heart. So I have empathy for people. And I just kind of felt God call out to me. And he told me what to write on there. And I wrote, Melissa loves Libby.
Mm.
And I gave it to her. And you would have thought I'd bought her a ticket to the moon. She danced and reveled in this moment. And she's like, I am going to hang this thing. I'm going to staple it on that post over there. I'm a regular here. I'm going to see this every day when I come in. Everybody else in the whole restaurant is looking at this like, what the fuck is happening? And and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And it seemed to transform the entire room.
Mm.
There at that point we got the feeling like there's not a single person in there who would have attempted to do anything. And there was a couple of guys who were veterans, and you could see they were kind of looking judgy initially when we walked in, but on the way out they waved.
Wonderful.
So
Yes, sometimes what can seem like such a small thing is really big for everyone involved, right? And it does make waves of change.
that's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm so curious to hear from you after all of these varied experiences that you've had, and you've lived such an interesting life. What is a peak erotic experience of yours that you're happy to share with our listeners?
Oh, well, there's a lot, right? So I'm just going to
Cool.
randomly choose one. Um, I'm trying to be politically sensitive to my current relationship too, so I don't want to bring up one of the older ones. There was one that was an older one. It's pretty good. We had our last fling, if you will, was with a fella who he had sex with both of us, and it was at a time when we were between houses. We were living in a little dump ass trailer, and Marie had put me in some pretty tight bondage and a ring gag harness, and he throat fucked me pretty good, and then got on the bed and fucked her, and I had to watch, and that's just one of my favorite things that ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a really hot scene, and after he came, she took the condom off of him and, fed me his cum, and it made a mess all over my face. And that was just kind of good, honest fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. So I noticed that you have a lot of writing on your FetLife. Would you be open to sharing a piece of your writing with us today?
Sure, no problem.
Cool. So what's it about?
Okay, so I picked a writing that I have. It's been up for quite a while. In fact, it's now looks like about 13 years old. And this is written back in 2012, before my full transition and the use of Neosteel chastity belt. But this is an article basically called Chastity, the Red Pill version. For those of you that are fans of the Matrix movie, you know what that means. Basically, what it is this is the truth. Male chastity, in particular, is shrouded with a lot of fantasy, a lot of groups. Basically, for lack of a better term, worship this kind of an idea, and so I came up with this writing back at the time because I got so many questions about my chastity device. I was locked up for the better part of 20 years, and when I say that, that's not 20 years without having an orgasm. That's just being someone's property, and we get into that in this writing. So, if you want, I'll go ahead and read it.
Please, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, so this is not really intended as a rant, but it may come across that way, and if so, I apologize. For you Matrix fans, if you're reading this, you're going to get the red pill version of what male chastity is about. Male submissives, and oddly enough, maybe even a few doms, have fantasies and a fascination with chastity. I see it in my feed all the time. These posters seem to consist mostly of two groups: those who have it and those who want it. Those who have it do it mostly alone, looking forlornly for that special key holder who will keep them locked up and add that mystique of power and control to their self-serving fetish of orgasm denial. Those who want it daydream about what it must be like, how cool it would be, and are fascinated with the devices that inflict it. There is a third group, those who live it. You don't see them in the feed because we don't really talk about it much. The fantasy is long past, and reality is where we hang out, or not so much, as the case may be. LOL. I've been locked up for a decade. That is to say, I live in chastity 24/7 by 360. Give or take a week, I do everything in it. And so does my not so pretty ultra self. That would be the person that used to go to work, who toils mercilessly to earn money so that I can spend it. I can speak with authority on the subject as well as anyone, and feel that since there is such a lack of real information on the subject out there, I'd post this for posterity. So this message is for those of you in groups 1 and 2. Here is the reality of where you are going if you should get there. Truth number 1. There is no such thing as a truly secure device. Face it, you're male. You have a God-given talent to know how to use a screwdriver, a saw, blowtorch, whatever. No matter how you try to lock yourself up, there are only various levels of difficulty to obtaining an orgasm. I read constantly, what is the best device? Or, gee, I better try something else, I keep getting out. Well, no shit, Dingle Dick, you keep trying. There is only one truly secure chastity device, and it is your mind. More specifically, that special relationship you have with a dominant partner. You wear that thing because of truth number 2, and you don't try to get out. Truth number 2, when your dom or dame locks you up, you damn well better stay that way. And no cheating either. No trying to come with a Q-tip or whatever ingenious bullshit idea you have come up with to sneak an orgasm. Chastity is not a game. It is a commitment. Those of you who lock yourselves up are just playing a game. That's fine. Have at it. But don't keep complaining that you can come in it or that you keep pulling out. Get yourself a real chastity device and go to a munch or a play party or OkCupid or whatever you can use to get a partner. because there's no greater chastity device than number 3. Truth number 3, it's not yours anymore. Huh? What did I just say? Yes, that's right. It's not your cock anymore. You sold it, contracted it out, lost it, gave it away, whatever. Once you have a partner who is your key holder, well, then guess what? It's over. All those fantasies you had about being locked up, about being unable to come, the game is over, and now you're working for a living. You're hauling that thing around between your legs, and the only thing you get to do with it is pee. And you'd best be a good girl and sit down. Yeah, you get used to peeing on your balls when they have swollen after weeks of teasing and play parties, hot picks on Fed or whatever else makes you lose sleep at night. And would you like to know what happens when you do get out, cheat, come, or disobey your dom? Anger. Tears. It's not pretty, people. Did somebody take your car without your permission? Have a party in your house without your being there, knowing about it? Oh yeah, it's the same thing. There will be hell to pay. This goes back to what I told you earlier. Use the force, Luke. Your mind is what's going to keep you from being naughty, because once you've experienced dishing out betrayal to the one you love, you're never going to do it again, I guarantee you. You are fucked, locked up tight for real, and there is no going back. Truth number 4, do everything. Get yourself a device that is comfortable, because guess what? You're going to be living in it. Do you want to talk, walk 10 miles in uncomfortable shoes? Those points of intrigue are going to do you no favor when you're laying under a bulldozer, taking a transmission out, or just stooping down to get off a ladder into a crawl space. Even the most friendly device is going to pinch and irritate the hell out of you from time to time, but you don't care because of truth number 5. Truth number 5, you don't know it's there. That's right. Does your wedding ring bother you? Do you see it on your hand and consciously think about it? That's what real chastity is like. You live with it so long you feel naked without it. You don't want to take it off. You don't want to be without it. You miss it when it's not on. And yes, you will still sit and pee when it is not on. That's how much she or he has manipulated you with it, trained you, and changed you. Truth number 6, it's hot, sexy as hell. Yeah, this is the one thing you were waiting for. The one you fantasized about before I bursted your bubble. When the time comes for sex, you're going to turn into that wanton whore that will have you going after anything and everything. Am I a slut? Absolutely. Why? Because I'm desperate. I don't have a cock anymore. I have a mouth and an ass, and I want fucked in both holes. Oh, but I can't come. I want to. I'm obsessed with it. Somehow riding a cock just feels so good, and I can almost get there, but it's just not happening. Pre-cum is oozing out of me, and I'm dribbling, making a mess. I'm swollen and just absolutely miserable. My legs will give out before my lust for it does, and when it's over and you feel like jelly, you'll thank your partner and be just as randy and ready for him or her the next person. This is what your owner has done to you, the monster he or she has created. The great white shark of sex. You're an insatiable fucking and sucking machine. It's nature's way of trying to make you asexual. Yeah, think about it hard enough and you will come and make yourself pregnant. LOL. Truth number 7, you'll adapt. All that stuff that you complain about will go away. The sweet sleepless nights, the undesired erections, the chafing, the rubbing, it will all recede into the back of your mind. That little adjustment you make with your hand at night will just be like scratching your head, the way you roll over so as not to break it or your cock when you were swollen from a dream or the need to pee. And your mind will change too. Stop thinking about things that make you uncomfortable. You'll stop getting hard every time you look at something that turns you on. Truth number 8, you're helpless. Your dom will still know how to push your buttons. And if they want to see their cock get hot and bothered, you won't be able to stop them. That's why they hold the key, the power, the control. They adapt too. They figure out ways to make you regret that you gave them the key. See, to them it is a game you used to play by yourself. Well, they play it for you now. They make you hard, and all you want is out, to be stroked, to feel that pleasure that he or she might make you give others, to take a cock in your mouth or ass knowing what that feels like on the giving end. You know just how to work it. Girls make the best cocksuckers. I can't help but get hard while giving a blowjob, knowing how absolutely fantastic that would feel. A feeling I know I'll never have again. Oh, maybe once in a blue moon she will allow me to feel it, but it's only to keep the memory fresh in my mind. In fact, any pleasure my cock receives is just to torment me for the next time I don't get any. Truth number 9. You may learn to hate orgasms. You get so used to not coming that your muscles that do it will atrophy. Orgasms can become quite painful. They can also be mentally debilitating, especially when your cum is ruined. I'd rather not come at all than have one ruined. It's crushing, makes you cry, makes you angry, or you may actually laugh if you don't get to have a real exciting, powerful, unruined orgasm. Be prepared to clean it up. There will be a hell of a lot of it, and depending on your partner, they may feel a need for that to be recycled. Only problem is that now the great white has turned into a sea snail. Ick. So there you have it. Welcome to the girl factory. Once you sell your soul, other body parts are interchangeable. The end of the writing.
Wow, thank you. That was almost a masterclass in chastity. Thank you for
Oh, that's
sharing.
another class that we do teach, and all these things do come out in it.
Yeah, well, yeah. If people want to find you and find out more about you and your courses, where is the best place?
FetLife is the only place, and it's MelissaBound, all one word.
Thank you. And if you had to describe your sexuality in one word, what would it be and why?
Leather. It is what I wear, and it is my community, and it is what we love.
Beautiful. I'd like to thank you for being so open and sharing about your journey today with us, Melissa.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm podcast. Thank you for listening to the Erotic Realm. If this episode stirred something in you, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a rating, or write a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps more people find the show and brings visibility to this deeper conversation about eroticism and self-understanding. I'd also like to invite you to dive deeper into the psychology of desire, including my writing, research, and upcoming courses over at psychologyofdesire.com. And if you want the full experience, join thousands of curious minds on my Substack at psychologyofdesire.substack.com, where I release the Psychology of Desire case files, behind-the-scene thoughts, and intimate reflections every week, plus more. Until next time, stay curious, stay embodied, and keep exploring. Also, as always, stay perverted.